John Kerry should not be Secretary of State. Evidence has just emerged that he went to Castro, negotiated with officials of the regime, and offered to scuttle the pro-democracy programs going on in Cuba, funded by the United States, in return for the release of Alan Gross, an American who was kidnapped by the Castro regime. He literally said that we will soft pedal the pro-democracy stuff, we will cut back the broadcasts and change the content of Radio Marti that brings unbiased news to the people of Cuba, and we will decrease efforts to foster democracy in Cuba in return for the release of Alan Gross. Alan Gross was an employee of AID, or Foreign Aid Program, and he traveled to Cuba with the goal of helping Jews in Cuba access the internet. And he brought some software and computers with him to do that. Right now in Cuba, you can't access the internet unless you get a special government card that permits you to do so. Mainly government officials can do it. Only 4% of Cuba has access to the internet. So he was trying to give it to the Jewish community, in part for religious reasons, so that they could participate in worship services in a country largely devoid of synagogues. In any case, the Cubans arrested him and put him in jail. He's still there, been there for 3 years. So Kerry, accompanied by Fulton Armstrong, who I talked about in the video last week, who is a pro-Castro Castro sympathizer from the CIA, was on the Foreign Affairs Committee staff and probably will go with Kerry to the State Department. Armstrong and Kerry both went to Cuba secretly, without authorization, met with the Cuban leadership and offered to soft pedal democracy programs in return for Gross's release. The fact is that with the Castro brothers both sick, Raul has hepatitis, and very likely to die in the next few years, the question of whether Cuba becomes a democracy or becomes like a North Korea, a hereditary communist monarchy, is really hanging in the balance. Castro and Raul want Castro's daughter to become the new leader. They call it the North Korean model, just like Kim Jong-il had his son and his grandson succeed him, kind of combining a hereditary monarchy with communism and a totalitarian system. We have to fight that. We can't let an authoritarian, dictatorial, communist system 90 miles from our shore. It'll become the base for the Iranian terrorists, for Al-Qaeda, and for all kinds of mayhem. But there are commercial interests that are anxious to do business with Cuba, to make money from Cuba, and want to, quote, normalize relationships, even as it remains a horrific dictatorship. But fortunately, there's a brave, strong, and growing resistance in Cuba of young people, not old Batista types, young people who are demanding freedom and demanding democracy. They deserve our support, and Kerry won't give it to them. Thanks.